kitchen smelled of burnt toast and regret. Alina stood by the counter, her slender fingers tracing the edge of a chipped mug, her blonde hair falling in soft waves over her shoulders. At 32, she still carried the elegance of her youth, though her hazel eyes held a storm that had been brewing for years. Her husband, Daniel, sat at the table, oblivious as he scrolled through his phone, the blue light casting shadows on his tired face. 10 years of marriage had dulled the edges of their love, leaving behind a quiet, unspoken truce. Before we jump in, real quick, most of you who enjoy these videos still haven't subscribed. If you're one of them, please take a second to hit that button. It helps with channel growth so much and means more than you know. And if you're already subscribed, thank you. Now, let's begin. Began with a bird. Not a metaphorical one, but a real flesh and feather creature, a sparrow, that crashed into their living room window one crisp October morning. Alina rushed outside, her bare feet crunching on the frost-covered grass, and found it twitching on the ground, one wing bent at an unnatural angle. She cradled it gently, feeling its tiny heart race against her palm, and whispered, "You're going to be okay." Daniel poked his head out the door, frowning. "It's just a bird, leave it." She couldn't. She spent the day nursing it, fashioning a splint from a toothpick and tape, feeding it water with a dropper she found in an old medicine cabinet. Daniel watched her from the couch, his brow furrowed. "You're wasting your time," he said, his voice flat. By evening, the sparrow died. Alina buried it in the backyard beneath the oak tree, her hands trembling as she patted the soil. Daniel didn't join her. That night, she lay awake, staring at the ceiling, the weight of the dead bird pressing against her chest. She didn't cry, not then. Instead, she felt a crack form, small but undeniable, in the foundation of her life with Daniel. Weeks passed, and the crack widened. She started taking walks, long, aimless ones through the woods behind their house. The air was sharp, the leaves a riot of red and gold, and for the first time in years, she felt awake. It was on one of those walks that she met Theo. He was leaning against a tree, sketching in a worn notebook, his dark hair falling into his eyes. He looked up as she approached, and his smile was warm, unguarded, a contrast to Daniel's clipped nods. "You look lost," he said, his voice low and melodic. "I'm not," she replied, though she wasn't sure it was true. Theo was a painter, a drifter who'd settled in a cabin a mile from her house. He was 28, with a lean frame and hands stained with charcoal. They talked for hours that first day about art, the forest, the way the light hit the leaves just before dusk. He didn't ask about her life, and she didn't offer it. But when she left, her heart was pounding in a way it hadn't in years. Walks became a routine. She'd tell Daniel she needed air, and he'd grunt, his eyes fixed on his screen. Theo waited for her by the same tree, his sketchbook always open. He drew her once, a quick sketch of her profile, her hair tumbling in the wind. "You're beautiful," he said, not as a flirtation, but as a fact, like he was describing the sky. She blushed, feeling seen for the first time in a decade. It wasn't love, not yet. It was something softer, more dangerous, possibility. First kiss happened in November, under a sky heavy with clouds. They'd been walking along the creek, the water gurgling over smooth stones, when Theo stopped and turned to her. His fingers brushed her cheek, tentative, asking permission. She didn't pull away. The kiss was slow, deliberate, tasting of pine and longing. When it ended, she didn't feel guilt, just a quiet, electric thrill. They didn't sleep together right away. For weeks, it was just kisses stolen in the woods, hands brushing under the cover of trees, her laughter echoing through the branches. She'd come home flushed, her lips tingling, and Daniel wouldn't notice. He'd ask about dinner or mumble about work, his voice a dull hum against the wildfire in her chest. The wildfire grew, One afternoon, Theo invited her to his cabin. It was small, cluttered with canvases and paint tubes, the air thick with turpentine. He poured her tea from a chipped pot, and they sat on a threadbare couch, the silence heavy with intent. When he kissed her this time, it wasn't gentle. Her hands found his hair, his found her waist, and soon they were tangled in his bed, the sheets cool against her skin. It was raw, urgent, nothing like the mechanical routine she'd known with Daniel. Afterward, she lay there, staring at the wooden ceiling, her breath uneven. Theo traced circles on her arm and whispered, "Stay." She didn't. She went home, showered off his scent, and cooked dinner like nothing had happened. Daniel ate in silence, oblivious. The affair stretched into winter. She'd sneak out when Daniel was at work, her excuses flimsy but unchallenged. Theo painted her full portraits now, her body draped in light, her eyes alive with secrets. She felt like a muse, a goddess, not the woman who folded laundry and paid bills. But the guilt crept in, slow and insidious, like frost on a windowpane. She'd catch herself staring at Daniel, wondering if he'd ever loved her the way Theo did. Then came the letter. It arrived in January, slipped under their front door while Daniel was at the office. No stamp, no address, just her name in neat, unfamiliar handwriting. Inside was a single sheet of paper. "I know what you're doing. Stop, or he'll find out." No signature, no clue who'd written it. Her stomach dropped. She burned it in the sink, watching the flames curl the edges, but the words lingered. She told Theo the next day, her voice trembling. He pulled her close, his arms steady. "It's probably nothing," he said. "A nosy neighbor, a prank." But his eyes were worried. They agreed to be careful, no more cabin visits, just fleeting moments in the woods. Letters kept coming. Every few days, a new one appeared. "He deserves to know. You're not who he thinks you are. End it, or I will." She stopped sleeping, her mind racing with suspects, a coworker, a friend, someone watching from the shadows. Daniel noticed her tension, asked if she was okay. She lied, her voice brittle. By February, the affair was a tightrope. She couldn't let Theo go, but the letters gnawed at her. Then one night she saw it, a figure standing across the street, cloaked in darkness, staring at their house. She froze, her heart hammering. When she blinked, they were gone. The next day, she confronted Theo. "Someone's following me," she said, her voice shaking. "This has to stop." He begged her not to end it, his hands gripping hers. "We'll figure it out together," he said. She wanted to believe him, but fear was louder. That evening, she came home to find Daniel waiting in the kitchen, his face pale. In his hand was a letter, not one she'd seen before. "What's this, Elle?" he asked, his voice low. She took it, her hands trembling. "Your wife is sleeping with the painter in the woods. Ask her about the cabin." No signature, just like the others. Time stopped. Daniel's eyes searched hers, waiting. She could lie, deny it, blame the letters on a lunatic. But the crack in her life had split wide open, and she was tired of pretending. "It's true," she whispered. He didn't yell. He didn't cry. He just stared at her, his jaw tight, then walked out of the kitchen. She heard the front door slam, the car engine roar. He didn't come back that night. She went to Theo's cabin, tears streaming down her face. He held her, but it wasn't enough. "Who's doing this?" she sobbed. He didn't answer, just kissed her forehead, his silence heavy. Days later, Daniel returned. He didn't speak to her, just packed a bag and left again. She found a note on the table. "I need time." The house felt like a tomb. The letters stopped, but the damage was done. She saw Theo one last time, under the same tree where they'd met. "I can't keep this up," she said. He nodded, his eyes wet. "I'll always love you," he whispered. She walked away, the forest swallowing his silhouette. Months passed. Daniel filed for divorce, a quiet, clinical process. Alina moved to a small apartment, her life reduced to boxes and echoes. She stopped walking in the woods, stopped looking for birds. But one day, unpacking a box, she found a sketch her face, drawn in Theo's hand, tucked inside an old book. Beneath it, in Daniel's handwriting, was a single word: why? He sat there, the paper trembling in her hands, and finally cried for the bird, for Theo, for Daniel, for herself. The truth settled like dust. The letters hadn't come from a stranger. Daniel had known all along, watching her unravel, testing her until she broke. The infidelity was hers, but the betrayal was theirs.